Doing better, of course, is a normative thing.
Right.
It depends on your values. I'm not trying to draw value judgments. Let me give you an example. Something like 9% of bridges in America are structurally deficient, and we've been spending an increasing dollar per capita on bridges. Now, some people might say pretty good performance, and that number's down from 27% or so in 1980.
27% of
bridges were structurally deficient. In 80, it's down under 9.
Got it. Okay.
And we've been spending, increasing.
Right.
Now, some people might say, hey, I'm a mom with my baby in the car. 9% is still too high.
Right.
But things are getting better. The question is, are they getting better fast enough for the amount of money? Because everything's budget constrained in this world.
Are there areas you think that it's clear as day now that the numbers, you have them and you can lay them out, where things are getting worse, materially worse?
I would say, in general, things are getting better, at least in my perspective.
Right.
I do think, and this relates to some of the philanthropic stuff we do, there are kids who, by virtue of where they're born, are trapped in poverty. If they're born, if parents are in the bottom 20%, and they have a 50% chance of staying in the bottom 20%, that doesn't seem okay to me, and I don't think that's getting any better.
And the other question I was going to ask is, you make the point that you realized at some point that so many of these nonprofits that you support actually are supported by the government or supported by taxpayers.
Yeah, we'll find that most, at least in the social service world,
right,
many of the nonprofits we support are as much as 85% government funded. And I don't think we found one that's less than 50% or so government funded. There are a couple, but I'm giving you the basic structure. And that's because what they're doing is essentially tapping into what we call in the report aid to the disadvantaged money and serving kids in need, whether it's subsidized preschool, whether it's Medicaid dollars being used for behavioral and social and emotional health. Those kinds of things are a big deal here.
Oh, go ahead.
But what do you do with this now that you know this? How does that change how you invest philanthropically?
Well, again, I started on this for philanthropic interest, and it tells me a lot about the fact that Medicaid dollars are kind of the bottom line when it comes to helping disadvantaged kids, and education dollars. And if you can't get those dollars to work harder, then you have a problem. So that from my philanthropic hat. When I got started on all of this, of course, I then developed a broader viewpoint. And what we're trying to do now is help create at least a foundation for a more fact-based discussion of what's going on with government in our country. Adjectives are far apart. Huge, small, that's kind of partisan language. But 10 and 11, those are harder to say, are huge and small relative to each other. And we hope to be able to ground some of the discussion. This is really a starting point. We need more data. I think what we'll try to do maybe is frame up an opportunity to have somebody on the right and somebody on the left debate some of these topics, but having to be strictly accountable to the real numbers. I think we'll try to change some of this stuff into materials you can use for civics classes and the like.
Are there numbers that you think have been cherry-picked in the political domain that now when you look at them in black and white, you say, okay, I see that they were cherry-picked and I thought one thing and now I think something very different?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a classic, but let's talk about foreign affairs and foreign aid. $40 billion roughly, $5.4 trillion of government spending. If you do the math, I think that winds up being about 0.1%. And if you look at where our foreign aid is going, it goes primarily, or not primarily, there is a large amount of that large percentage that goes into Israel, Egypt, Afghanistan, Iraq. It's not in all measures going to poorer countries. A lot of it's going to allies in places where there's a lot of military and political strife.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.